intro. Andy, quick question. You mentioned something about OSI and Windows. Anything in terms of timeline on that? When we're going to
So
see?
it's definitely a priority for us to be able to get ZoomISO to Windows. The problem is it depends on something that's out of our control, which is an update to the Zoom SDK. So if I were to pull a time frame out of my hat, I would say hopefully by the end of the quarter. So that would be sometime in roughly October timeframe would be when we would uh, be close to probably a beta somewhere around that point. We'll be in that phase. What we're doing right now um, would normally be considered pretty crazy, but what we're doing is we're building it without the thing we need, so that when we get the thing that we need, it's ready. So we're doing everything that we can do so that when the time has come for us to be able to release this, we don't have to start at that point. So we're doing some stuff on our end, and presumably Zoom is doing things on their end, and then once they decide that it's okay for developers to have access to the features that we need, we'll hook into them and then hopefully have a beta in 1 to 2 weeks after that point. So that's kind of where we're at there. I would say it's probably you're looking at September, October if everything runs smoothly, but it's at Zoom's discretion whether those features come out or not. So I'm not really able to commit to anything just yet.
Okay, and just to follow up to that, if that happens, does that mean we have a stable version in the first quarter of next year?
First quarter of next year, if all of that happens, I think absolutely, yeah, there should be something out there for the 2022 production cycle, and that I feel a lot more confident about than just the October November. But we'll have to, again, it depends on Zoom following through on some of those things. But assuming that they do, 2022 is a reasonable time frame for us to have something to market. Hey Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I had to see if I was unmuted. So, trying to figure out the right equipment here. I'm all Windows PC based, just for simplicity, and I want to start accessing NDI streams. I know right now the Mac Minis have an NDI issue. I know that's out of your control, but any insight into when NDI would be coming out of a Mac Mini infrastructure? Because that's what I'm trying to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. So the solution is NDI 5. We got NDI 5 probably about a week and a half ago, released from New Tech. So we are beginning that process of integrating it in. It is a whole engine change for that in there. So what we're trying to evaluate is a couple of different things with the NDI 5 release. So there is the question of whether or not we should compile natively for Apple Silicon and include NDI 5 in that, whether we should migrate the entire app to NDI 5 but leave it as running in Rosetta. There's a question of, is NDI 5 production ready? That's been, if you've been following the Facebook groups and the posts there, some people have had really good experiences. Some people can't connect to their stuff anymore. So that gives me some hesitancy to completely jump ship to NDI 5, at least until we've had a chance to confirm it ourselves. One thing that we are toying with is having two, either in-app have the option for you to select which NDI version you use. If we can, we don't know if we can include both SDKs at once and then give the user the option to choose which engine they export through. Hopefully there's no conflicts there. That would be an elegant way to do it if we could. Or if we need to make an NDI 5 version that ships alongside of an NDI 4 version, then allow the user to install one or the other based on their comfort using NDI 5 or their need to do it, right? So it might be the case that, NDI 5, what I can say is that like NDI 5 will be leaps and bounds ahead of NDI 4 on Apple Silicon, because NDI 4 is a bit of a dumpster fire on Apple Silicon right now. So anything is better, right? So any improvement will be an improvement. So for the M1 customers, it'll be a no-brainer. For the Intel customers, it'll be maybe a harder ask right away. So we're just trying to figure out what the right way to package it up is. But we have downloaded the SDK. We're in the developer community on that. We're actively working on porting it over. So my goal is that you'll see it before the end of the summer.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sarah, I see your hand raised. How you doing?
Hey, I love seeing all the, I don't know how to put my hand down for my phone. Anyways, I see that, I love that you guys have made all these improvements, but I haven't used this since, you know, my last production, which all went really well. So I'm now trying to get back into it. And I got one of your guys on the Slack channel hooked me up with the like instances. And is that the new instances on the companion app?
Mm-hmm.
And that is just giving me presets. Do I need to like reprogram stuff, or is that new syntax? Or what?
Have you used our instance in the past? Last time you
No,
built it?
like last time I just put in, I did everything as use /zoom/username.
Right, you did use the
slash,
API.
Yeah, just doing that old one. Do I need to switch over, or because what we're doing is relatively simple as far as just needing to pin, unpin, and then add pin. That's all we need to really do right now.
Gotcha. I mean, if you have, so there's no deprecation, I should say, first of all. So if you have something that worked before, it'll still work now. So your pin, add pin, all of that stuff. We didn't take away anything. We've only added new stuff that is easier to use. So
it just makes it so that you can easily just throw in, instead of having to type in the programming, it's just already preset. That's what that's about. That's
right. It also has support for new workflows. So there are some things in these that you couldn't do just through typing in commands manually, like, for example, the dynamic variables inside of Companion, the things that can have the name of a person automatically appear on a key. For example, if reflecting your gallery order, right? So all the people in the gallery view are up, your buttons are all named reflecting the order of the gallery view. So when you press that button, it does the person in that position, but you see their name on the key. Those are the kind of things that the instance is really good at. But
it puts the name automatically on the Stream Deck key?
Yes.
Oh, it like automatically labels it for you?
Yes, it can. And it can do it. Not only can it automatically do it, it does it live. So if the parameters that you tell it to track change, it'll update the key. So if I have a button that says, spotlight the person in the top left corner of my gallery view, and that person changes, the button's label will change in response to that in real time.
I see. So if I'm pinning by the gallery position or whatever, and I have new callers coming in or whatever, it'll automatically update.
So if you're pinning by gallery position, there's literally a preset that you could just drag the entire preset into a page and you'd be done at that point. If you're using the new instance. Now, that's not to say that you can't use what you built in the past. You can still totally do it. It won't have that capability.
It just won't be updating. Right. It just won't. It'll be locked into just that name, just that.
Right. Thing. So nothing was taken away, but a lot of new helpful stuff is added. So you might, if this is an opportunity for you to do a rebuild, I would suggest that you at least check it out and see what it's all about. But I wouldn't worry. Your old stuff is still good.
It absolutely is. So then I would just regular button. So I would look at if I look at my ZoomOSC deal, I'm just looking for it. I mean, I see pins, remote pin, spotlight, general location.
So if you want to do a pin, you're just going to select pin.
Yeah.
And then look at the action. So when you select pin, so all the commands work this way now. You select the thing you want to do, and then you start to tell it how you want to do it. So if you select pin, the next option is pin,
like it says pin screen 1 in the under message.
Right. So you click that, and then when you go to the button that you set that to, you'll see some options. You'll see how do you want to identify them? What pin action do you want to use? Right. So there's you pick the action you want, then you can pick how you want to identify them, all sorts of stuff.
Oh, I see. So if I select, so the difference between index, gallery index, and position, one is up, down, like X, Y.
Yeah.
And one is just by the order that they entered the room in.
No, the order that they appear in your gallery view. So there's a couple different lists inside of this module. So there's list index, gallery index, and gallery position. So let's talk about what those are. So list index is, like you said, it's the order that they're in the call. So first person in is index 0, second person in index 1, so on and so forth. Gallery index is related to the order top left to bottom right that people appear. So
like
on my
as
screen,
you read it, like as you read it.
As you read it, yeah, across.
Left.
But it's a number, right? It's a 1-digit. Well, it's a single number code for each person. Gallery position is a comma separated coordinate for where that person is in the gallery view. So if you are 1-1, you're over 1, down 1. If you are, but over 1, down 1 could also be gallery index like 7, right? Because you would go across and then you come down and then you go across again. So they're equivalent in terms of you can hit everybody in the same sense of that, but the gallery shape is something that is really helpful when you're doing your Stream Deck setup, because you can say, I want to set it up so that my buttons coordinate wise match each of the positions, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, so on and so forth, which is distinct from a gallery index, which could shrink, as people leave and go.
Right.
But again, everything we're talking about everything though, and you're still building the button manually here. But if you wanted to, you could go to the preset page and you could just drag this over, and it would all be done for you.
Okay, wait. Oh, I see the little preset bit, and then it says available. Here we go. I see. So I hit presets. Then I got these 4 red things. So I could say gallery pin. I would go gallery pin,
and just drag it all over. Yeah.
Okay, so let me try that. And it pops in there, and then it says, but so then I go there, but it comes in as position.
Right. So those are based on the position in the view.
Okay. Okay, and then other quick questions. So before, in the before times of May, when I was using my older doing the add pin function for multi-pin, when I started, part of my startup procedure was to go into each ellipses and hit allow to multi-pin. I would be the co-host, and I'd have to allow to multi-pin so that I can multi-pin people.
No, you only have to allow to multi-pin people who you want them to be able to multi-pin.
Oh, because see, we couldn't get that to work without doing that.
There's a couple of things there. So anyone who's a co-host can multi-pin, but people who aren't co-hosts can multi-pin if you hit allow to multi-pin on their action there. If you couldn't multi-pin them before, there's something else in the way.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have needed them to do that because they're just actors.
Right, exactly. So something else was in the way there, but it's not that setting.
So for right now, if I use my old syntax and I just change the usernames out to a couple of y'all, I should be able to add pins based on y'all's usernames. Because
Sarah OSC is a co-host, yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. That's what I'm gonna try for right now.
Cool. Give it a shot. Let us know how it goes. Welcome back, Jeff.
Thank you. What a pain. Whew. Audio routing issues that get you every once in a while. Well, very good. Sounds like a lot of great things continuing to happen. The pace of your video releases have been incredible, and so we share with everybody. We've on the ZoomOSC or Zoom Test Kitchen YouTube page, which we're streaming to now along with Facebook. That's our primary video archive and playlists of each of these meetings, along with, I finally figured out how to link to Andy's playlists as well. So as he, if you've got bookmarked the Zoom Test Kitchen YouTube page, that playlist there, that it's called Liminal playlist, or training videos, I believe I named it. As he adds more or makes changes or takes out old stuff, it will update dynamically as well. So, so the resources of learning just continue to grow, which is super impressive, super helpful. Outside of that, I know it's just a touch, today is commonly a little bit different of an audience than tomorrow in the Zoom Test Kitchen. So I'll let everybody know next Friday in the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm crossing my fingers that schedules work out with me and a couple of Zoom folks. I'm looking to solidify a deep dive tour into the new Zoom Events platform from the product manager of the Zoom Events platform in order to be able to share that information and my exposure and features and limitations and so forth. And, you know, they don't usually share a lot of roadmap, but any particular roadmap that they're allowed to talk about. Can assume there's some pretty decent roadmap coming, only because Zoomtopia is around the corner. And right now, Zoom Events does not support simultaneous meetings, and Zoomtopia is all about that. So I would just guess that's right around the corner. So it'll be fun though. So a week from tomorrow, looking to do that tour into the Zoom Events platform, and so if you can carve out some time, if you have an interest in that platform and seeing what it is right now, that will be the focus. So Andy, I don't suspect you are anticipating any particular changes, breakages, anything like that because of the Zoom Events platform necessarily. Because when you get to meetings are still meetings, webinars are still webinars, by all indications. But anything that you're aware of? Yeah.
So my understanding of how Zoom Events is built, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you've gone through it now as a user. So I think of it as an itinerary system. So it allows you to, as a producer, schedule out your events, meetings and webinars, put them all together. And then for the end user, it allows them to have an itinerary of the things that they want to go to, and it allows them to click right through the Zoom app and get into the thing that they're signed up to get to. So in that sense, it's great in the pre section when you're trying to set up your itinerary. It's helpful during the event to navigate to the different rooms, kind of like if you were at a conference and they had all the different rooms going. It's your map telling you what room number to walk up to get to the thing you're looking for, right? And then in the post, my understanding is that it has some tools for producers to do some basic analytics about how that went. It also introduces a marketplace for events. So that's the other part of it. It allows you to ticket your events and things like that. So what it doesn't do, once you hit join meeting or start event, you're in a Zoom meeting or webinar, and it's the same Zoom meeting or webinar that you're in here. Now you still have that other panel that lets you see the other stuff going on, but it doesn't actually affect the in-meeting, in-webinar experience. And that's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it means that there's not a new platform you have to go learn and figure out. On the other hand, it means that there's no Zoom Events doesn't offer any capabilities for the actual event itself, right, when it's in progress. And that's where groups like this in ZoomOSC and all that, that's where we come in. And we offer the actual production tools that are needed to operate an event. So Zoom Events helps you with the pre and post. ZoomOSC and ZoomISO help you with the in-meeting event. So that's how I view them as pairing together. And thankfully, as far as I've been aware, there's no conflict in setting that up.
Good deal. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing so far. You know, it's a session manager. But
definitely ask them. Like, I know that the Zoom Events people know about ZoomOSC and ZoomISO, and they follow that stuff. So ask them what they think the workflow is there between the two of them. I'd be curious to see what they say to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it has. Obviously, we'll have a long ways to go and grow as well. But yeah, it's the ability to build your schedule, edit your schedule, see and easily link to those meetings in and out. Your Zoom client becomes your Zoom Events platform until you click join, and then you'll see the traditional Zoom window pop up, and so it'll be pretty promising. The pricing looks advantageous if you've been on some third-party platforms. It looks fairly promising that you can get some pricing for multiple sessions and so forth that may be a little more affordable, but it's all published out there at this point. Hey, John?
I was just going to say, for those of you that attended the Zoom Academy yesterday, this was their first major run of it. And there were some hiccups, but it really worked pretty well. And I imagine there's going to be some changes between now and Zoomtopia, which is not that far away, September, I think, 13th and 14th.
Yeah. Yeah. I was there in and out here and there, but it gave me that exposure. And then I I posted, I registered formally for Zoomtopia, and so I thought, I'll record that process on my screen, and did, and with the intention of releasing it to the Zoom Test Kitchen page, just so you can see, to share with some folks who haven't gone through that process, what the user experience is like, and that's not the back end, that's the front end, and we'll be doing the same thing with chunks of topics with the back end, setting up hubs and events and so forth as well. So anyways, a little at a time here as we dive into it. Hopefully next week, depending on timing with my tour Q&A with Zoom, we'll see if we can't make this meeting part of a Zoom event and have a couple others to jump to or something like that. So we'll give it a shot. Probably not ideal for the streaming audience because that'll be hard to get all linked together. But as far as the hands-on, it should be a good experience if timing allows me to get all that set up and going. So any other comments or questions before we is there anybody with a second device in that needs to be promoted that hasn't been promoted? I've got Andy actually has one down there. Andy, you are promoted. Sarah is. Anybody else come ready? I hate to go into a workshop mode and bore some people that don't have their own devices or companion, but how many of you in fact have companion installed and running so that you can at least poke around and so forth? Okay, so most of you do. How many of those actually have like either a Stream Deck device or you just choose to use the screen, Stream Decks? Okay, all right. How does somebody have a particular project, whether it's production related and we're going to sit here and help you get ready for it, or just a project you have in mind that you'd like to be maybe your first project or a continuing project, depending on how much time you've spent, that you want to maybe describe, and we can kick off. And this is just on the fly. There's been no prep for this. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stefan. Thanks for doing this. This is the first time I'm joining, so thanks for having me. I'm doing virtual trainings and business trainings with groups of about 10, 12, 15 people. And I've only used ZoomOSC once for a bigger event a couple of weeks ago, and it worked really well. And I spent a couple of nights getting it all set up and ready and understanding how this whole programming works. And what I've done, I've known before exactly who the speakers were, and I've kind of moderated the event and also contributed to the content. But one of the things that I'm doing daily is to run these training sessions and trying to pin people and to spotlight people when they speak and when they kind of, like I'm doing now, raise their hand. Is there a way to do that quickly on the fly without having to know their Zoom names before and programming the button? That's what I did for that last event. So I was wondering if there was a way where I could do that more quickly. I know, Andy, you talked about something similar before, but I didn't really understand exactly what you meant.
No, absolutely, and thanks for sharing that use case, because those are exactly the kind of things that we can help you do. So yes, the first answer, yes, this can be done. There are multiple ways to do it, and so I'm going to ask you a question about that. So when you say, have it happen instantly or automatically, do you mean that the act of raising your hand itself causes the person to get spotlit, or do you mean that it causes some sort of light to come on your Stream Deck to help you see as the operator who to click on to spotlight? Which of those would be more helpful to you? If you had something that you could toggle on and off as a rule, or something that was just lighting up your Stream Deck so that you could click the button?
The latter one. What I would like to do is when somebody raises their hand to speak, like we're doing a group work and they come back and they're presenting, and one person is chosen to present. I would like to bring that person in as a picture-in-picture. So I would like to pin that person to my second screen and bring him or her in as a picture-in-picture into my feed and say, thank you, Andy, for volunteering. The stage is yours. And then I would spotlight him for everyone else.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So we can totally do that inside of Companion. So let me launch my Companion, and I'll show you how to make that happen. So there's a couple of different concepts we're going to be playing with. We're going to be playing with dynamic variables to get the names on the keys automatically, so you don't have to pre-program them ahead of time. We'll show you our presets, which we'll use to make this easy to set up. And then we will also use our instance feedback. Instance feedback is the thing that allows you to style the key based on a parameter about that user. So what we're going to do is we're going to style the color of the key based on the hand raise. Let's do hand raising for now. Like the hand raise status of that user. We'll turn the key yellow if their hand is raised, and we'll leave it black if their hand is lowered. And that will allow you to look at your Stream Deck visually and say, okay, the yellow names are the names that have raised their hands, so I can choose to click them. When I hit them on the Stream Deck, it'll add them to a spotlight. Well, if that's all right, maybe that's what we'll look at for now, and then we can sort of tailor it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a screen share. So here we are on my desktop. You all see that all right? It's coming through. Great. Okay. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to leave the pages I have here because I'm shooting these tutorials, but I'm going to delete some of the instances that I have here. So I'm going to leave my ZoomISO. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete I'll leave my vMix one there, just we can ignore that for now. And I'll delete my ZoomOSC one, and we'll start it from scratch. So the first thing I would need to know is whether you are doing this from a Mac or a PC, because there's slight differences to be aware of.
I am using a Windows machine, a PC.
Okay, great. Okay, so you're going to do exactly what I'm going to do here because I'm on a PC. So inside of ZoomOSC, you're going to take a look at the settings. So first thing you want to do is make sure that your transmission IP is the same IP as Companion. So if they're both running on the same computer, it's 127.0.0.1. Transmission port 1234 is fine. Receiving port 9090 is fine. I'm going to change my transmission port from 1234, and I'm going to go to 7070. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I have Isadora running, which can only use port 1234. So to avoid a port conflict, I'm going to change it. You don't necessarily have to change yours. I'm going to set my OSC output rate from 100 milliseconds to fast as possible. When you're using Isadora, you need to be at the 100 millisecond rate, but with Companion, you can be as fast as possible. I'm not going to adjust any of my remote control settings. And then the rest of this can be managed inside of Companion, but I am going to go ahead and subscribe to all. So I'll set that to all. Participant reporting will be set to Zoom ID. And that's all I have to do inside of this to get it ready. So the rest of this we're going to do inside of Companion. So I'm going to go to the add connection area, and this is the one of, I think it's like maybe a 2-week-old beta build. So if it looks a little different, this is what Companion is going to look like in a couple of weeks. So everything I'm going to show you can be done. You might find it easier if you want to follow this exactly to go and find the latest Companion build and download it, and then it will look exactly like this. So I'm going to look for liminal, and there's the liminal ZoomOSC module. I'm going to hit add, and I'll look at a couple of parameters here. So right now it's errored out because we haven't set it up yet. So target IP 127.0.0.1, that's the local software loopback. We set that up before, that's fine. 9090, we left that alone, that's fine. Feedback port we changed to 7070, so we're going to enter that. Subscribe mode we're going to leave at all, and tracking mode we're going to leave at Zoom ID, and then hit save. We'll give it a second, and there we go. Now it's gone back to OK because we set that 1234 to a 7070, and now it's happy that they both match up. So now we have access to all the different things that exist inside of the liminal ZoomOSC instance. So I'm going to go over to my buttons, and I'm going to page myself out to a place where I haven't gone before. You could use page 1. I'm going to use page 8. And I'm going to go over to the presets area, and I'm going to click on liminal ZoomOSC. So there's a couple of different things that are here, and there'll be more of them coming soon. The one I'm going to pick is probably list index spotlight, so which is this preset over here. So you click that, and now you see all these different names of the people who are on this call, and it's sort of these different shade of green buttons that are available there. So I'm going to drag one of them over, and we're going to take a look at what it is. So there's this weird string of text. This is the dynamic variable. The dynamic variable is basically saying grab the person in list index 0 and put their name here, and then put a new line and put the word spotlight underneath it. Again, that's all pre-configured for you. You don't have to type this out. You don't have to understand this. It's there. That's what it's doing. So this name has now automatically populated. So that's step one. So now we have a name on a key that you didn't have to write. You just grab it from the preset. If I go into a new meeting, that name is going to be different, and it'll be a spotlight key for that person. It says the command here is toggle spotlight. So you might want it to be add spotlight or just pure spotlight, or we could use toggle spotlight for now though. So toggle spotlight for user. The user is going to be the list index 0. So that's already set up for you, but this is just this list that we maintain of all the different people who are here. Now over here in the feedback area, if we want to make, so what this is going to do is it's going to change the color of the key based on whether or not we have spotlit that person or not, but that's not what we want here. We want to change the color of the key depending on if that person has their hand raised or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the feedback that currently exists for this key, and we're going to create a new one. So under feedback, we're going to hit add feedback, and I'm going to type in ZoomOSC, and you want ZoomOSC user status feedback. So now the user, we're going to select list index 0. So the same thing that we had up here, we're just going to match down here. So we're dealing with the same user here. The property, we want to be the hand raise status. If the hand raise status value is on, so that means they've raised their hand, we want to change the background color of the key to some shade of yellow. I'll pick that. Then we need to add the reverse. So if we get a message that they lowered their hand, we want to turn the key back to black, let's say. So we're going to add another feedback from the ZoomOSC user status feedback selection. We're going to select the user by list index, index 0, property hand raise status, value off, background color black. So Jeff, if you go ahead and raise your digital hand, your key turned yellow, and oh boy, yellow and white are hard to see on top of each other. So I'm going to set the text to black too, to make it readable. And then if you lower your hand, it goes back to black. So all you have to do from here is rinse, wash, repeat, but increment the index number. And then you'll have a whole page that you can use for this. So I'm going to make it easy on myself and just copy this key over and over again. So I'm going to hit Control C on my keyboard, and I'm just going to start Control V on the rest of my Stream Deck. So I'm going to paste Jeff over and over and over again. I'm going to do 2 rows for now. You kind of get the idea, and you can continue the Stream Deck if you want. So what do I have to change for this key? I'm going to do this for the sake of completeness. Again, you could use the preset, but I want to show this so that you can understand exactly how to modify this if you wanted to make a change yourself. First thing we want to do is change the name. This says list index 0. 0 is the first key. This key needs to be 1, so we're going to put a 1 there. It's already changed the name to be Jeff OSC, which is a different user in this call. Over here in the identifier information, we want to change that 0 to a 1, and we want to change this 0 to a 1, and we want to change this 0 to a 1. And now we're good. So now this key is done. Same thing with the next one. We did 1, so now we're going to do 2. We're going to put a 2 everywhere we had a 0. And did I grab, let's see, do I have the right list index user here? Oh, I think I have to select it from the, let's get rid of that. Do we have 2 Jeff OSCs here? I don't think we do.
I think you do.
There are. Yeah.
Oh, there are. So you're faking me out. Come on, that's no fair.
It doesn't like duplicate names. I'll change one.
That's okay. If I do, it just makes it hard for me to tell if it's working or not, but that's fine. So I'll do list index 3. Okay, now it's starting to make sense again. So put some 3s in there, and now that's the next user, and we'll just keep going here. So I'll put a 4, a 4, a 4 here, and a 4 there. And the next one.
So while you're doing that, I'll speak to this, and that is, it seems a bit tedious at the moment, and it kind of is, but this is a one-time investment for this panel, if you will. You can leave this meeting now, join your very next meeting, and have a whole page of brand new names, that are in your next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting. And that's what's so great about the dynamic variables is it's a program once or configure once and use multiple times for your meetings. So, you know, you can extend this in a smaller meeting. I think this works great. There's no question. As your meetings get larger, and you administratively focus on a subgroup of the whole meeting. Yesterday and the day before, I was managing meetings that had 600 people in them. You know, we're not going to go put 600 names. Those folks, I don't even care about most of them, but I care about the primary speakers and presenters and known dynamic contributors at best. I'll manually manage, you know, small, you know, hand raises and so forth, but you know, I'm not going to go there right now, but in manageable groups, you can get the whole meeting on a Stream Deck pretty easily, or on an iPad using the emulator. You can get page after page and just scroll through it and still have a touchable device as well.
This is super helpful. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
cool. And then I could add ATEM macros to it, to the press action, and bring them in as a picture-in-picture and do all of that under the same button, basically. But that's really cool. And then when the group changes, I just have different names in there, right?
That's right. So you build this one time. You put one time on your couch at home, in the comfort of your mode, and then you come in and it's ready for you. And just to sort of prove the end of this here. So if for folks who have their video on, if a couple of you could raise your hand. Great. So if I hold Shift and I click, I am creating a multi-spotlight, and I can Shift click again and remove the spotlights. There we go.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. It was really helpful.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you for that, Andy.
And that's what today's for. You know, that's those are the kind of things that we're looking to do. So that's again, just to sort of recap, that is the ZoomOSC module. That is ZoomOSC Pro. You need ZoomOSC Pro for this to work. That is instance feedback to color the key, dynamic variables to style the key, and the presets to get you set up. So that's what we covered there.
I have a quick question. In my instances, I mean, I see them, I see it working, but it says connections, instances, status, it says error.
Okay.
I'm on a Mac, I'm not sure if there's something I need to change, or if there's more that I see when that doesn't say error.
So there should be more that you see when it doesn't say error. So if it says error, you need to check you need to make sure that the networking settings match between the two. So if I share my screen again.
So right now, bit focus is 8,000.
Yeah. Well,
so
that's,
I need to change.
Well, a couple of things there. So you may not need to change bit focus, because that's running on, for me, that's running on port 8888. That's fine. But inside of, if I go to here to edit, target IP and transmission IP, these need to match. Transmission port and feedback port need to match, and receiving port and target port need to match.
And from the ZoomOSC settings.
Yes. So yours looks a little different on Mac OS, but it's the same. But
settings. It's that first column. It's that first column there.
Yeah, it should be these here need to match these here. So it would go from, so again, if you look at what I've sort of matched here, target IP and transmission IP match, transmission port and feedback port match, receiving port and target port match, OSC output rate is as fast as possible.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Great, and then if you hit save, it should go from error to okay. And it's I don't know if you get an error message for this, but if you don't have ZoomOSC Pro right now, you won't have access to the instance variables. I don't know if it tells you that, but there used to be a place that it would put that information on the instance. It would say like warning or something like that instead of okay.
Okay. All right. So mine says Okay, target IP, transmission IP are the same. Transmission port, feedback port are the same. Target port and receiving port are the same.
Okay.
Fast as possible, Zoom ID, all those things.
And subscribe mode is set to all.
Subscribe to all, yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and hit save.
Well, I didn't change anything.
That's all right.
So I don't have an option to save. I don't see save.
So then just disable and then hit enable on the instance.
Let me see that. Oh. Instance, disable, enable. Okay. Okay. It says okay. And now
Awesome.
it says error. Now it says error.
So how is a ZoomOSC and your Mac or the computer that you're running on, are they on the same computer? Okay. And
yes.
It's possible that there's a firewall in the way.
Oh, 100%. Let me do that. That's definitely a thing. Okay, let me go look over there.
Yeah, double check that ZoomOSC and Companion are allowed on both the public and private network.
I've got the same, Andy. I've got the same error. And when I disabled and enabled, it went back to OK. And after 5 seconds, it went back to error. But it has worked before.
So let's think about that. So it'll say OK at first because that's just a companion thing where it's like if the instance hasn't been set to error, it defaults to OK. That's weird, but that's the choice that they made. So what actually happens here is when you create the instance, it sends a ping request to ZoomOSC, and then if ZoomOSC sends a pong reply back, we know that we have two-way communication, and so it sets it to OK. If it doesn't receive the pong reply within 5 seconds, it errors out. So that's why it waits a couple of seconds before the error state shows up, because it sends the ping right away, and then it waits. And if it doesn't get it, it goes to error. So if you so this is a common problem sometimes on Windows because you may have seen the first time you launched ZoomOSC, you got a pop-up that said, do you want to allow this through your network? And it defaults to saying allow it to the public network, but it doesn't ask for the private network. So if you want to take a look at that, I can show you how to do that on Windows really easily. So if you type in Control Panel and you go over to Network and it's System and Security, Windows Defender Firewall, and then you go over to allow an app or feature through the firewall. I'm going to drag this away so I don't show all my apps just yet. I'm going to scroll down. Okay. You see here, I have a million versions of ZoomOSC, so that's why they're all here. But you'll see these ZoomOSCs listed here. They need to have both public and private checked. These two boxes need to be checked. So you go to change settings, you check the boxes, and then you would hit apply. And then you would try that again.
Oh, damn it.
Okay, thanks. I'll try that. System security, Windows.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm having issues. I don't see anything in my security.
In terms of
like normally it says, click lock to make changes or something. Maybe it'll show up. Let me see. Yeah.
If you want, Sarah, what you can do is you can send us in an email. You can send us some screenshots of what you're seeing there, and then Benjamin or somebody from our team can go through on the Mac and try to follow you step by step and see where we see something different from what you see. If that'd be easier. But it sounds like you have the companion to ZoomOSC thing working because you're able to send the commands, but you don't have the feedback coming in because it would error. It's giving you an error.
I haven't tried programming it yet, but when I click on, presets, and I get, so say I hit gallery pin, or let me check over there, and I'm looking, I do see instance feedback down there. I just only had in presets. I only have the. I thought you had a lot more options when you hit presets. I only have 4. Gallery audio, gallery video, gallery spotlight, gallery pin. Am I supposed to have more than that?
You just need to update companion.
Oh.
Because we're using the beta builds right now. The beta builds have all the new presets in them. The release versions don't.
Okay, so I don't have that yet.
That's right. You would need to grab the update. Yeah.
And when is it? How do I get that?
Sure. So let's go back to our screen share. All right. So you're going to go to BitFocus's website, bitfocus.io. You're going to go into the users area.
Okay.
You're going to log in. And I'm going to log in. And then you're going to land here. Now, you grabbed it by just clicking on one of these options, but over here where it says beta builds, that's where you actually want to click. And then when you click on that, you're brought to this page.
Okay, wait, beta. I'm sorry, I missed where you said beta build, where you grabbed the beta builds.
So you go into the users area here, right?
Yeah.
Beta builds is right under Linux on the far right.
Got you. Okay, let me see. So download.
Go to downloads, beta builds, takes you to this page, and then you grab any of these.
Okay. But I gotta sign in. Beta builds. Sick. Okay. And then I get the one. So this will probably resolve the problem.
Most
and which
likely.
one do I do?
I would grab the most recent beta build for your operating system. So the Linux one is Linux, the Mac one is the one that has a little Mac there, and then the Windows one has Win64 on
So
it.
the 2.201?
Yeah, 2.2.0-1E65F702
That's it, yeah.
3485. Yeah, that one.
Right, got it. I just,
The eloquently named.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay,
So
now-
just be aware that this is a companion experimental build. So this, just to give you a little bit of the framework here, BitFocus Companion is an open source project managed by a company called BitFocus. To put things on it, people write up code, they send it over, and then if it gets approved, it goes in and they make a new build. And so they make builds like every couple of hours. They've been on hiatus for about a week, but they make a new build every couple of hours. The release build goes through several weeks of testing by the community, validation. It's confirmed to be stable. It's what they recommend you use. If you grab one of these beta builds, it's only a few days old, hasn't had a lot of testing, has a lot of experimental features for BitFocus itself, but it also has the latest stuff that all the developers have been pushing up into it. So you need to be careful and really make sure that you're testing this before you use it in production for sure, because these builds are like hot off the presses. They haven't been validated and tested yet. So just be aware of that. And the thing is that we, as Liminal, have almost no ability to control for that, because we don't make Companion. We just make our module inside of Companion. So if there's a problem in something that Companion or in another module is updating at that time that causes ours to not work, that's out of our hands. So just
Got
something
it.
to be aware of.
Hey, no risk, no reward, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. But this is how, but eventually what's in these beta builds will be in the next release. But BitFocus only releases new public releases like 3 times a year. So we're just in between those right now. Yeah, Robert?
Andy, if you do download a build and you come up with a problem, is there any way of going back to a previous build?
Yes. So you could uninstall the build that's there and scroll down the list to earlier builds that are available. So just be aware that if you go to a build that has a feature in it, you implement that feature, you save it, you export it, make a backup, roll back to a build that doesn't have that feature, you might not be able to pull that preset back up. So just watch out for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? I can't see my gallery view right now, so if you've got a question, go ahead and just,
Cone has his hand up. I'm not sure if you have a question or if it just didn't go down. All right, so we're clear there. Anissa had asked, I replied in the chat about the need to if you have multiple instances or pages that you've built, those configs, everything you're building is being stored on your computer, not your Stream Deck, right? And
Right.
so if you want that config to move, you either export everything, all the pages, or you can export a single page at a time as well, right? So you can then move your Stream Deck if that's the case, and also import those the pages of work that you've put in, and they're platform compatible, right? As far as if you have the same builds, that's certainly a part of it. But if you have the same builds on your Windows machine and your Mac machine, you can invest in one platform and export and import, and that should work cross-platform just fine as well.
Awesome. Well, what should we build next? we got plenty of time.
Well, I got to remind Bill. He said he was going to come in here ready for a challenge.
And I have to say, I've spent a lot of time playing with this, and some things have worked awesome, and then other things not as well. And I'm not above beyond thinking it's user error. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's user error. I also know that Zoom sometimes has issues on their back end I've seen it using Zapier interfacing with the APIs. So anyway, with all that said, what I'd love to do is demo what I did. And as I talk through it, I can explain where I ran into problems. And I think I got some experts here who can point me in the right direction.
Just
Cool.
maybe. Go ahead. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. So, so if I can share my screen, I think that
Yeah, just a moment, Bill.
and while I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to ask, gallery, is there any way to do the gallery on a Windows platform?
There is. It's a little involved, but the way that it would work is you would turn off everybody's video and then turn them all back on, and then it would be good. It won't follow though if somebody raises their hand. If somebody gets spotlit and shuffled up to the top left, it won't follow that. So basically, it can kind of work. It's very fragile, and there are integrators who have built out solutions on top of Windows Gallery tracking that work because they also built out all the prerequisites to make it work. But if you're just sort of encountering it for the first time, you're going to look at it and say this thing doesn't work at all. But there are some things to watch out for. Basically, what you have to imagine is that on macOS we are told the order of the gallery view, so we're good to go. On Windows, we have to look at all of the things that could affect the gallery view, and we have to then make a guess about what that did to the gallery view to track it basically in our mind. So and as Zoom changes the things that can change the gallery view, our gallery tracking doesn't know about them. So it doesn't know about like spotlighting, shuffling you to the top left, but only if you're not the speaker and only if you're not the co-host. And there's all these different conditions. You also have to hide self-view or turn your video off because it shuffles you in the top row, but sometimes it's the second box and sometimes it's the third box, depending on how many videos are on. So there's a lot of conditions on Windows. And so we basically recommend not using it. Data is there, and you for some users, they have a use for it, and they, and people have built stuff on top of it, and so we don't want to take it away. But it is a royal pain to use, and I would highly suggest avoiding it.
Do all those issues go away if I purchase a Mac?
Yes. Gallery tracking on macOS is perfect.
Just give me NDI on a Mac, and then I'm happy. Then
Right.
I'll go get a couple.
All
right.
M1, yeah. There you go.
So let me go ahead and start showing what I've built out here. All right. All right. So basically my environment, I'll just start with that. It's a Windows 10 platform running BitFocus Companion, the alpha version, I think 2.2. something, and Stream Deck, or rather ZoomOSC Pro. I have the luxury of having 2 Stream Decks, which is actually pretty nice. You could probably replicate the same sort of setup using the web interface in a physical Stream Deck. So what I've done, let me just start here. So basically I have a 16 key Stream Deck, and I am finding that I have to refresh the list a lot. And basically the order I'm doing it in is I first update, and then I'm looking here, message update, message list. If you see something wrong here, Andy,
Why do you,
in.
are you using target IDs at all?
I am using, let's just go.
Or just list indices?
Let me just jump to it. So I'm using list index completely.
Okay. So there should be no need to call update, because update, all it does is it assigns a target ID to everybody in the call. So you should be good not using that. Also, update sends the list reply by itself. So there's never a reason to call both update and list together. But by calling update, you're implicitly calling list, but you don't need update because you're not using a target ID. So that's the first thing. Now, if you're telling me though that the variables are getting stale, or they're not automatically updating without constantly hitting the refresh list button, then there's something else going on.
Well, so what happens is that the variables don't update. So I'll just jump into my list. So the way I've organized this is I basically, each one of these buttons calls the person's name based on where they are in the list. So it just displays their name, and then I can toggle on and off their video, toggle on and off their audio, or I can spotlight them. The green shows that they're actually active with video, active with audio, and I haven't spotlighted them. In fact, I'm not sure Spotlight gives me a status. I'll just check here. Yeah, it does give me a status. Okay. On this button, it also has a couple other functions. So basically, it's reporting their name, and I kept it just one button because sometimes you get long names and I want to be able to actually read it.
Okay.
So I didn't combine it, but I also enable it to be toggled. See, that's very interesting. So right now I've lost everyone's name.
Mm-hmm.
If I hit the refresh list, interesting. So there it came back. So from time to time, I just seem to lose status. But anyway, we'll keep going through here. So basically, it's a toggle switch. So I can actually use these buttons to create a selection, and then I have an add spotlight button rather. So the first one, I always have to grab one of these guys and spotlight them, but then I can click a couple other of the selections, which are all toggles, and then do an add spotlight. Very interesting. I'm getting crashes here. So here, okay, so here's more an example where I'm actually, able to toggle people. I guess I have to do it from the physical Stream Deck to toggle people. So I'm able to toggle people and do a add spotlight. So the first one I always have to do using just spotlight this person, and then I can create a selection and do an add spotlight. Does that make sense that I have to do that workflow?
You should be able to just select the people you want and then hit toggle spotlight. So you should be able just to start with the users, end with the action.
Because because in that workflow, that's how I started. It wouldn't always work. It was inconsistent.
So what is your, yes, let's look at your add spotlight here. So this one says add spotlight to user, but there's no identifier selected for the selection. See what I mean? So where it says user.
Yeah. So it should be, let me hear.
Jeff, we're getting a click through your mic.
Oh.
Okay, so now it's properly reporting that there are 3 people ready to be spotlighted.
Okay, so we grabbed, now not everybody has video on who's in your selection, so it won't work, but
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, so I should have toggled them off.
Yep.
And let me just do this again here. I'm gonna, you have to do, I haven't tried doing this from the web interface, but I guess some of these, a toggle button only works from a physical Stream Deck.
Huh.
Good to know. So now I've toggled these 3 folks on. This is real simple in front of me because I have a second Stream Deck with the add spot. It reports the 3 people that are there. I go ahead and grab them, and it's a toggle button too. Down, adds them, and releasing.
we only got one of them. So can I see who was on your list again? So it would have been Jeff, Robert, and Max, and Cohen. So we only got one. So let's look. Okay, I think I know what it is.
And what's interesting is the green lettering says that they're the active speaker.
Oh, really?
So that status
well, that's
is correct.
Yeah, that's another thing. So that is that's changing in the ZoomOSC 4.0.5, where we have an is talking parameter, which is different than active speaker. Active speaker, quote unquote, is just who has the yellow box around them. And if you spotlight somebody now, they get the yellow box. So that's Zoom is saying they're the active speaker, even though they're not speaking. It's just it's crazy, but they call active speaker something that isn't necessarily based on whether or not they're giving audio or not. And so it's kind of a weird label. But you'll see that the yellow box is there and now it's gone. So it when you spotlight somebody, Zoom says they're going to be the active speaker because you're putting it up because they're going to talk. But if I start talking and I take the mic away, it takes away the active speaker status. Anyway, the reason that you're only spotlighting one person is because in the current implementation of lists, and this is different from how favorites work, but in the current implementation of lists, there isn't a one action solution to do everybody. I have to look at this again. So can you go back to your button for your for applying the action? Great. So it's got the right feedback. So the thing here is that it says user identifier 3. So what it's doing is it's doing it only to the last person that you hot selected in that group. So rather than saying it's doing it to all 3 of them there, this is basically a spotlight action for one user because the user identifier is set to 3, which is their index. So
maybe I totally misunderstand what a selection is. So basically, because it does sound like I do. So my command here,
right,
was to toggle selection based on the list index.
Right.
And this should be, okay, so, and each one of these guys has a different identifier. And I thought when I added each one of those, I'm basically kind of creating an array, and then I'm acting on it by adding a spot that, and that's why I didn't have an identifier in here, is that I thought it was actually holding the other, my selections in memory.
So if you go to the drop-down list for selection, where it says user, where is this here? We're changing it in this one. So there's a.
These are all the individuals, so we'll come up here.
The individuals there. Let me look at something real quick here because there's another. 1 second. Presets. Basically, the problem here is that you're selecting a position by putting the 3 in there. You're selecting a specific user from the selection versus a like everybody in that container. To do an action on everybody who is in your list is a different. It's a different thing, and let me find it. What was it called? And Jeff, if you know this one, let me know because I need to find it in my inventory. Oh, Did that do it there? Just threw up 3 people?
I just did that, sorry.
Was that, so what is your,
Mine
Is it-
is
I'm
no
forgetting
no
about
user identifier, user equals selection only. So I have a select Jeff, select Andy, select Bill, and then I did a spotlight on that to add to spotlight user selected is selection, and user identifier is blank.
it's blank but not 0.
It's not 0. It's
Okay,
blank.
that's it. That's what it is. So you put a blank there instead of a 0, and then see if that does it. That's so lists are getting completely changed inside of Companion. There's going to be single select, multi-select favorites, and those are going to make things a lot more intuitive. But if we clear the spotlights out, and then yeah. So Bill, if you try that, if you just pull the 3 out but don't put a 0, let's see what we get.
So I'll do Jeff. So this is the behavior I was getting. So I basically, while we were playing there, I did the spotlight. I changed my command to spotlight user versus add to spotlight user.
Oh,
And it appears to replace it only gives me 1 spotlight in the end because I think it's very quickly replacing
yes.
spotlights.
So you want
Yeah.
add spotlight instead of
Yes.
spotlight then. Yeah.
So let me just redo this. So I'm going to do it one more time. I just changed my command back to. So what I had found is I always have to spotlight 1 user. So I did Jeff there.
Oh, I know what this is.
And
Yeah.
then let me get 2 people with video. Now it works.
Okay. So this is resolved in ZoomOSC 4.0.5, and the reason that you're having this problem is that there is a timeout when you go from when you go into spotlight mode, basically. And so when you send this command, it is sending too frequent commands to it without being in the spotlight ecosystem for Zoom to understand that it needs to create a multi-source of that. So in the next release of ZoomOSC, which I can get you a beta of, this should work fine. Because we have looked at that list and we have said, okay, we're going to inject just enough delay automatically on our side to make that work. But this is undocumented thing inside of Zoom that makes things really annoying to deal with.
So I'm running that beta. Yeah, I'm running that beta and just did a 4-up, in a touch, which works beautifully.
So here's
Yeah,
a
and-
giant shout out to ZoomOSC Test Kitchen because you probably saved me another 3-4 days of figuring out what I did wrong. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Bill, shoot us an email. We'll get you the build.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. And then test it and let me know. I believe that will fix it because we have a whole new architecture for the multi-spotlights. So if it doesn't, I definitely want to know about that. But that's great.
Okay, thank
Super
you.
helpful.
Could I ask a quick follow-up? I'm
Yeah,
just
sure.
I feel like I'm in idiot mode here. But yeah, I don't know what I learned just now, but I learned something. So thank you, Bill, for that. So yeah, I updated the BitFocus companion, but what comes up is ZoomOSC and OSC. I don't understand. How do I find the liminal for the beta, the instances? How do I find that?
Okay. So let's
Because
go.
right now, like when I updated it, I have my old school pinning, unpin, add pin for each one, and one of my buttons wouldn't add pin. I tested them all in all the different configurations, and one of them, and they're all labeled the same. I used copy paste, so I'm not sure why add pin won't work for one of them.
Okay, let's take a look. So first thing you need to do is go to the add connection area and then just type in ZoomOSC here, and you should see it come up on this list, but not on the connections list.
Oh, okay. So let me go back to me. So under log or
On the right where it says add connection. So you have to go to the connections page where
it
instances are
says
managed.
connection/instances, and it says add by category, add by manufacturer.
Yeah, I think
This
that's
isn't-
the old. That's
This isn't the new build
version.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess maybe I'm like I got 100 different. Okay, let me
Yeah,
find
if
that. Then.
you might have to delete your existing companion.
Yeah, I thought I
Okay.
did.
Yeah. But if
Okay,
if it doesn't look like this, it's the old build.
okay, cool. And okay, I mean, all right, I got to go to my applications. All right, do you think the okay, so then why wouldn't can we look at the add pin thing for
Yeah,
this
sure.
one person? Can I share screen?
Yeah, please.
Does that help?
Yeah. If I've got you, let me co-host your other machine here.
Well, I want to be just use the ZoomOSC. When I'm talking on, you don't have to co-host.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, what the hell? Share screen. Desktop. Open. What? There's all this security crap now. I don't understand why. Okay. Later. I don't want to record. Okay, so hopefully this fixed it. Aha. And there, nope. That's not. Oh, I canceled the. Let me just go to whichever. I have too many companions in here, so I need to delete those. Sorry,
Just a
y'all.
heads up, we got your email there. Yeah.
Okay, so share screen. So I need a second screen at my house. That's really my problem. So I apologize, y'all.
No, it's all good. If you wanna roll over your companion build first, maybe that's the.
Yeah, but I had to do permissions. This is what. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so now you're
okay,
good.
so here's my.
This is still 2.1 somehow.
Yeah, somehow, but I don't know what. I guess I'm having an issue, but either way, I'm able to I can pin myself. See where it says Sarah pin? I can pin. All that stuff's working. And then when I hit add pin for Jeff, like if I go pin Sarah, add Jeff, it works. Or add these, it works. And I can unpin. But when I go to add, if I unpin Sarah and go to add pin Sarah, it doesn't do it.
So you're starting at. So you just want to go in.
It's just like one of them isn't add pinning. The rest of everything else works.
Can you pin a? Let me see this.
But I don't know if I can see this from share screen mode.
Let me.
Right.
1 second here. Let me go to gallery and look at.
Well, so okay, so you're typing your name. So which one are you trying to?
The one that I have selected right now, Sarah add pin. It doesn't add pin, but Jeff add pin does, and so do these other ones.
Okay, so then let's look at the. Can you show me what's in the ZoomOSC log when you hit that button?
Okay, so I don't know how to bring that. How do I show you that? It's
okay if you just want to read it out to me. It'll be red. It'll be an error most likely right after you hit that button.
Log. Okay, so it says failed to pin user with error 4.
Okay, that means
failed to unpin user with error 4.
Okay, so that means that error 4 means incorrect circumstances, which means that you couldn't do it in the Zoom UI, so you can't do it now. So if you can you do this? Can you stop your screen share?
Yes.
Hit the button again, check the log, and see if you still get error 4.
Log keeps. Where's the log now? I don't see like a new row coming in.
If you set your logging level to info.
Message could not target user for no user was sent username Sarah. Did my username change somehow on my phone? It says Sarah.
Is there maybe a
right?
see no user with username Sarah?
But it works for
could-
unpin pin.
It works for unpin, but not for pin.
It works for unpin and pin, but not add pin.
Then it sounds like is there like a leading or trailing space in there in the name field?
I don't think so.
I'm not seeing it. And
But
Let me
it
like in my
You're
yeah,
breaking
but
up
I
a
mean
little.
it worked. It worked before I started trying to update stuff. So maybe it had to do. So pin myself, pin Jeff, unpin myself. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna try logging off and find.
Could you
and
try
deleting
just
the other things.
real quick? You try turning its video on for a second.
Yeah.
And then try the.
Ooh, maybe that's a problem. Do I have? Okay, pin Sarah. So I'm pinned. Pin Jeff. Add Sarah. Add. I can pin myself and then add Jeff and the streamer one, and then Bill. Can unpin all of them. And if I unpin myself, the pin goes away, but since I'm talking, it's still showing me because I'm the active speaker. Now I pin Jeff, and I hit add pin on me, and nothing. Just shows. Yeah, maybe. Do you think it's a problem with the update thing? Because that's when everything. I just don't know why it would affect one user name.
Yeah, I would, simplify. I'd start with just get the right companion build in there.
Okay.
So you're on one solid build, and we can begin to replicate steps on our
All
end.
right, I'll try that.
Great, awesome. Hey, Bill. You're muted, Bill. Yep.
I got you.
So I was going to say, I'm your worst nightmare. So going back to Spotlight. So basically, it will work on Windows if I have it activated before people turn their cameras on, or have them turn them off and turn them back on. And I think there were some other caveats that you shared.
Yep. So watch out for raising hands, your own video, spotlighting, pinning.
So I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
If they raise their hand, will it break it after
Yep.
I've initiated it?
Yep, because their video will shuffle to the top left, and ZoomOSC will track that.
Since raising my hand. Okay, so it's a non-starter. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I tried. I tried
but-
it on Windows,
Too much.
and
Yeah.
it gave me some names dynamically, but it was only the ones with video on. But if the first position was off and the second position was me, I'd get my name dynamically in the first position. It just
Because it ignores video off users because it can't deal with that. Because so here's
So I'm going to have a quick question because
Yeah.
okay, so the $600 Mac Mini.
Yeah.
The basic Mac Mini.
Yeah.
Is it going to be able to support basically running running NDI out of it once NDI supported? I understand it's not, so I'm asking you to project in the future. But given that you just did the decklink test with the SDIs out, is it going to be powerful enough with just the 8 gigs of memory, or do we need 16?
it's cruising there at 8% CPU usage with 4 outputs right now. So at 1080,
Okay.
so it's doing fine. Yeah.
Because I have a bunch of Sonnet boxes, and I could always fall back to that, but I really want to get to a workflow that's pure IP.
Yeah, so you're good now. Will you be at 8% with NDI? Probably not, because you got to copy the frame out to the network port and do a couple other things there. But there was plenty of overhead.
I was going to say it won't be more than 30 because I do a lot of vMix.
Yeah, it is so efficient. It's the M1 is just blowing my mind. It's lapping around a Mac Pro trash can from 2013. Like,
okay,
it's crazy. For
Thank
$699, you get incredible amount of performance.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on.
Yes, I've been reading the command syntax last week.
Oh, you printed it. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I've been printing it. Yes. I did it in black and white because otherwise it would all be green or blue. What was it?
Oh,
well,
Lord.
I stumbled upon...
We have plain text versions of it. We're happy to give it to you. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Oh, I'm an old man. And I stumbled upon a command called set gallery view and set speaker view. Is it correct that it's only affecting the gallery or the speaker view in the ZoomOSC client and not in the views of other users in the meeting?
Yes, with a caveat that if you have follow host view enabled in a webinar, it will affect the webinar attendees.
What do you say?
So inside of a Zoom meeting, you're absolutely correct. It'll only affect your local view because there's no, inside of Zoom itself, there's no way to force everybody to look at a certain view inside of a meeting. If you're in a webinar, different story. Attendees in a webinar can have a setting set by the host that says follow host view. And if follow host view is on, they will always see what the host sees. So if the host is in gallery view, the attendees see gallery view. If the host is in a speaker view, they'll see that. If they're in a multi-spotlight, and I think now it will actually show them the multi-spotlight. Okay. So if you make ZoomOSC the host, and then you set this command, the attendees of the webinar will also have their view changed.
Understand. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. And that command is, sometimes people get confused about it because it is a user action. It is not a global action. So that means that the command is going to be /zoom/me/setGalleryView versus /zoom/setGalleryView. And the reason for that is that you can, there is another caveat to what I said before, which is if your other users are using ZoomOSC, you can actually control their view for them. So you can say a command like /zoom/username/setGalleryView Jeff Widgren, and that will change Jeff's view to gallery view if both of you are running ZoomOSC and both of you have set up your remote control preferences to allow that to happen. So there are a lot of user actions in ZoomOSC. Actually, every user action in ZoomOSC can be remote controlled on another ZoomOSC client. Now, have I ever seen anybody do this? No, but we did build out a pretty robust remote control system.
When I would stream the content of the meeting to YouTube, and I want to grab the gallery view, I should use the screen of the OSC client always.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I keep the manual on paper, okay?
Okay, sounds good. I love it. It's great.
What's up, Bill?
This is a what-if question. If I had a gallery tracking, is it possible to then sort people who are currently speaking toward the top of a list, or use a third party? What I want to do is be able to quickly see in a large gallery who's actively speaking so I can spotlight them.
Okay, so a couple of things there. When you say is actively speaking, do you mean is the active speaker or just people who are frequently engaging in the conversation?
Yeah, I was actually thinking actively speaking.
So there is an instance feedback inside of ZoomOSC for active speaker that you could set to highlight the key of the active speaker. So if we were to recall our example from before, let me share that again. We could go here and instead of following the hand raised status, we could follow the active speaker status. Let me go ahead and do this. So we're going to leave everything the same, and then we're just going to change hand raise status to active speaker status on these. This will take me a second to complete, but the net result of this will be that whenever Zoom says, basically whoever has the yellow box around them will also appear yellow on your stream deck. So that would allow you to quickly see who is speaking and then do an action on them because their key will be lit up at that time. So I did the first row here. Let me do myself because I'm actually the one speaking. So if it's going to work, it's going to work now. So let's see, active speaker. Yep, there we go. Okay, so anybody in the top row, go ahead and speak.
Test 1, 2, check 1, 2.
Hey, this is Bill.
1, 2, 3.
Test check, Jeff.
Nope.
Hello.
There we go. Sorry, I had a thing.
Hello, hello. Yes, working.
Hands on.
Now it's back to me.
So
But we
we'll
shouldn't
never
speak
do
all
more than
together,
one
okay?
at a time. It looks like it's one at a time, right?
Yeah, one at a time. Yep.
Yeah.
We can't sing together.
But there you go. So, and it's only the first row, but now the key is lit up based on who the active speaker is versus their hand raise status.
Is there a way to sort the active speakers to the top of a screen, or do I have to build out basically a control panel the size of my galleries?
There is a way to do this, but it's not done in Companion. So if we go to Isadora world, we can pretty easily do this.
Okay.
That's where we could have a list generated by any property you want, and then we could basically do like if they're not in the list and they're an active speaker, push them to the front of the list. If they're in the list and they're the active speaker, promote them to the top of the list, and then just push the list down as they go. We could build out all of that stuff in Isadora if we wanted to.
Do you recommend running Isadora on a Windows or a Mac? And would it run on
actually
the
is-
same Mac that can do the ZoomOSC?
It's fabulous on both, actually. It they spend a lot of time with feature parity there, so it's pretty stable on both.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Active speakers with an S on the end is pretty, to me, Bill, feels really blurry as logic being applied to it, you know, and quite momentary, you know, like, you know, it can, what does active speakers mean when it changes from these 3 to these 6, and now those 6 to those 2, and like how long do they live and be considered an active speaker, or how short? You know, do they have to talk to still be considered an active speaker or drop off that list? It seems like a really fuzzy definition.
Yeah, and it's a challenge, Jeff, that I had to solve last week with this smart multi-view in office hours. So that MB16 only contains, out of all the people in office hours, it only contains the last 16 people to speak. So the way we solved that was just first in, last out. So it's not based on time; it's based on sequence. So if you haven't spoken in 17 changes of speaker, you're out. So that's how we solved it there. But it's you could define it by, like you're saying, you define it by all sorts of parameters. How long has it been? How many people has it been? You know, are you in a subcategory where it's expected that you have a long period of time between speaking? Is there a too frequent amount of speaking? How long were you speaking for before it's really considered speaking? Right? Because the active speaker can switch if somebody coughs, you know, and it cuts to them right away. You know, that's is that really speaking? Is there a way, you know, that we should start a timer and then cut the timer after that? So you're totally right. These are the kind of things that we had to think about when we were building that. What we actually ended up using is not active speaker, but is speaking, which is a new parameter coming in ZoomOSC 4.0.5. What it does is it's by being less smart than active speaker, it is actually a lot more useful. It basically just says there's audio coming from this person or there's not, and that's all it does. So it'll fire a message if you hear audio from them, fire a message if they stop. So is speaking and stop speaking. It doesn't, and it can be for as many people as we want. It doesn't care about spotlights or screen shares. It doesn't mess with any of that stuff. It has no relationship to the yellow box in Zoom. It's just, is there audio presence? Was there audio presence? Now there isn't anymore. So those two messages. And by basing it off of that, you get a lot less functionality in terms of it doesn't follow Zoom's speaker logic, noise gates, all that stuff. But it allows you to not muddy your logic that you build on top of it with all those weird parameters that Zoom is using. So you're not fighting two algorithms at once. So that's something to consider in the future as a capability that you might be able to leverage.
Always something. Always something.
I think I have success here.
Yes.
It's basic, but I got the all the green. I went into the presets and it looks I went to gallery pin and I just dragged over everybody that had a username. And so basically I toggle it and it adds it, it turns it on and off. So if I want to do the whole change color, I think, like on this thing for like who's actually pinned, how do I do that?
Yes.
So now I have like 9 people on here or 12 people, and I could just hit all the buttons and I'd have a gallery view. And if I want to unpin, how do I make sure I know, okay, who's unpinned or who's pinned? That's my question.
Which preset did you use?
I just used the pin. It says gallery pin, and they all say they're sort of toggle pin user on screen by username. And I put in, all I had to change was specify username.
Got it. Okay, I'm with you. So
good.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here. There's no feedback associated with that preset.
Got it.
Yet. So and that's because in previous versions of ZoomOSC, there was no feedback for being pinned. Now we have a command that tells you the order of people who are pinned. So eventually this module is going to get updated and it will have feedback in it, and then you won't have to worry about it. But if you do want to worry, there is another way to do this. So if we erase the button, clear, presets, ZoomOSC, I think you would really like selections. And the reason I think you would like selections is because they allow you to do a lot more with a lot less space.
So gallery selections or list index selections?
Both will work. But I'm going to use list index selection, but it will be the same exact steps for you in gallery selection.
Okay.
I just don't have a gallery on Windows. So I'm going to bring in some of these buttons and we'll take a look at them. So if you look at this, if you hit this button, it actually doesn't seem to do anything. All it does is it puts somebody into the selection list, which doesn't do an action to them, doesn't pin or spotlight or anything. It just selects them. So at servers, it seems like, okay, why would I want to do that? Well, the reason is if I go to like the far right of my Stream Deck and I add a button and I say, spotlight or add spotlight, I guess in your case. I hate the auto font sizes on this thing. It's just ridiculous.
Drives me nuts.
It's insane. Like what algorithm is this? Anyway, you go down to ZoomOSC and you add the pin command, right, as you've done before. Add pin to screen 1, user. When you select selection from this list, you're going to add pin for everybody who's in the selection group. And at the end of the day, this is going to give you exactly what you're looking for, where you can see that they're highlighted, add them to the spotlight, like I just did there, and you just got a multi-spot. And then if you add I copy this, and I guess I would just do a clear spot here, but I could do unspot just as easily. And I would do, I did a pin. I did a multi-pin, sorry. Here's my multi-pin, proving it works, just so you can see it there.
Right.
If I want to do the opposite of that, I would do unpin from screen 1, selection as the type, and then the action would be unpin from screen 1, and then I would hit unspot. I was doing pins, so let me do pin, add pin there. Now we're back to this view. So again,
you would say you use that as like a command, like add pin Jeff Warren, and then he would be added. And then so, this is just like this. What I have in red here, all that red stuff, that's just like their name.
Right. It's just a selection. So you're choosing some people, and then you're choosing the action. So this is really efficient because you can have.
That's more like a light board. Like
yes.
these people are lighting instruments, select the ones I want to turn on and hit the turn on button.
Right, and then you can leave them selected and do the
Holy
turn off
shit.
button. There's all sorts of other actions you can do here, right? So if I wanted to do like this, add pin, okay, I've got them in my multi-pin, but now they're still selected. Maybe I want that, maybe I don't. If I don't want them to still be selected, all I have to do is add another action, ZoomOSC selection. Where is that? It's called selection action. And then I just hit clear selection for selection like that, I think. And now if I hit add pin, it unlatches those selections, right? So I can select a couple here, add pin, the light turns off. So you could you can build this out however you'd like. So that way your unpin and your add pin, like they're resetting every time you call the action. So it's up to you, but I think you would do, because it gives you so much space, right? It's like otherwise you got, you know, pages and pages of the same users just to do different actions. In this
So
case,
would I have to,
right.
if I go the other way, would we have to would I have to select them all again and then hit the command?
You don't have to. It's up to you. So you don't have to.
It'd be nice to just be able to know who's already pinned.
Sure. Then in that case, don't clear the selections.
Yeah, I think I'd want to visually see the different colors, because then I would select who's in color or who's in that bright green because they're on. I'd want to select those and hit unpin.
Right.
And just be able to toggle the people. Okay.
Right, because at that point you just.
But the other way where I was just toggling on and off, that was great too. I think because I think we're mostly going to be doing this by username. We'll always know. I mean,
right.
and with that, and being able to drag like that, it automatically. I didn't have to type anybody's username. It just automatically populated. So that was great.
Super fancy. Yeah.
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 So
the other, if I
ahead.
added a touch of workflow, like Andy cleared the pins after you did select pin, and then the last action was clear the selections. You say, no, I want to keep them lit. You know, that's cool, but there's a really good chance you're going to hit a situation where you go, you need to rebuild. You need to remove 2, leave 2, and add 1 more, and so you may consider that when you pin the selected, first issue a clear and then repin the newly lit ones, because you rebuilt them. You turn 2 off, turn 3 on, and then you hit pin selected. So you clear, so the screen quickly wipes and then rebuilds exactly the way you want it as well. So it's still real simple, predictable touches. You know, I never want to go back and manage my Stream Deck buttons for status, you know, just to set up for the next. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that thought out there.
So having the clear, the pin, the unpin, and the clear as commands available is what you're saying.
Yeah, just know that they're available and then, you know, use them, insert them appropriately.
All right, I'm going to play with that.
So selections are a lot of fun. Long story short.
I'm gonna share a screen real quick and see if it pops up. That's the famous Benjamin panel, right?
Yep.
Where you could, where you could, you know, select. It's not. I got something I messed up on, so it's not populating everybody right now. But anyways, you know, select on the buttons, and then,
by chance is this because you're in screen share mode and it has the little pop-up panel with 3 people on it?
Yeah.
That's That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think that's really cool that it still works for the 3 people who are in the multi-view.
You're right. Yep. So, but yeah, you know, because then we've got 2 rows. You can pin the selection, you can spotlight the selection, you can unspot, unpin, toggle. I mean, you know, it's pick your passion on what you want to do. And then as well, like right now, the buttons are built to be 5 wide. And so the other part that's super cool about dynamic variables is if I have a Stream Deck that's built with 5 wide for humans and 2 wide for actions, I'm going to drag my gallery window and size it so that it is in fact 5 wide, so that it's accurate. What I'm looking at on screen completely matches what's on my Stream Deck, and it just becomes that much easier of a visual reference as well.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. And we've talked about this before, but for the sake of completeness, look at what my ZoomISO layout is. It's pretty much exactly the same thing now. I don't have ZoomISO hooked up right now, but imagine all these NAs were names.
Yeah.
All I have to do here is click a person, send them to an output. Click a person, send them to an output. Click a person, send them to an output. This is a matrix at this point.
Yeah.
So it's very, very easy to, and again, I'm clearing selection here so that once the output is done, I'm not going to use them again. So again, different workflow, but for ZoomISO, that exact thing is super helpful because it allows you to just route right there from your Stream Deck. And the crazy powerful thing is if you start to combine this with vMix actions, which I show in a YouTube video we have coming up, you combine the vMix action with the ZoomISO action, and you are basically able to preview any of the people in your Zoom call from your as though you had ISO sources of every single one of them, which is insane.
Yeah. So if you had in vMix, you had a 1-up built, mask, a 1-up, a 2-up, a 3-up, a 4-up, and then you had your page of multi-select, right? So you say, well, that's not what your page did in particular. It wasn't a multi-select, but you could quickly do just that, and then you could send a vMix which build to have out there. I wonder how.
So what I do in the video,
you could make that happen.
What I do in the video is I take all my sources and their inputs 1 to like 8. I think I did 8 inputs, so I have 8 video NDI sources coming in. And then I have a 2-up, 3-up, 4-up, 5-up, 6-up, 7-up, 8-up. Or I might have stopped at 6. Because I didn't have John Barker's thing at the time. So I had 6 super source layouts. So what I did is I had a panel that was like make 2-up, make 3-up, make 4-up, make 5-up. And what it would do is I'd tap some selections and I would hit the number that matched the number of people I selected. And what it would do is it would reassign the users in those ISO inputs so that the super source matched who I had selected, and it moved the super source to preview. So that basically allowed me to just fly through and just hot select as many as I wanted, and I could always have the shot I was looking for. Now, it's a little weird because you're reassigning your inputs. So you have a little mental gymnastics there.
So the super source is referencing kind of NDI 1, NDI 2, NDI 3, not people or cameras.
So what I would do is I'd have 2 Macs. I would have one that was just like always left alone, and then I would have another set, maybe it's 8 to 16, that are I'm not going to take to program by themselves, but they're there in support of the super sources, and they're tied to my Stream Deck, for example. That could be a possible workflow.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Can you show me where to, I got the names in there, but my list index, but where do I do how do I do the pin, add pin, clear?
Yes. So let's take a look here. All right, so you got this, so you're good there.
Yeah.
And now you got.
You're
gonna go to regular button. So you're gonna hit regular button.
Okay, slow down. Okay, so I have a regular button. Okay, got it.
And I got this view, and I'm just gonna put a name in here. This will be like maybe add spot, and I'm gonna change my font because it's gonna drive me nuts. So 18. So we're here. We have a name button. Looks good. Press actions. Type in ZoomOSC. Here's all the actions.
Okay.
I want to deal with something related to the spotlight, so I'm going to hit spotlight.
Or I could be pin or.
Yeah, or anything, any action you want.
Any action. Okay.
Can you help us understand real quickly why you manage pins and multi-pins so much? Just for work's sake.
Oh, Sarah's awesome. You're going to like this answer.
Yeah,
Sarah and I go back.
I don't know any. I mean, outside of people doing single full screen pins for video capture, I haven't met anybody who uses them like you've been going after today.
So I do use it for theater scenes. So we know who's coming in at whatever time. And if we want it in a certain order, we got to, you know, at least before we had to pin the first person in whichever order, and then add the people in and be able to take them out of the scene. So they'd exit and we'd unpin them, but we'd have to add pin. We'd have to set, but it seems like with what this is right, or at least what I was doing before in the gallery view, I wouldn't have had to do any of that programming. I could have just done the names and just hit the buttons. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a why. It just seemed to work well for the theater that we were doing. Yeah. I have no, because we would know who's coming in, but for people where it's like where you don't know, you have various panels and all that kind of stuff. I think the idea of this sort of sniffing who's out there and relabeling it, that's insane. That's amazing. You know, because we had to make sure that we were like, okay, actors, rename yourself. You know, we had to have the specific, sometimes they would come in with different usernames and we'd have to, you know, during pre-show, we'd have to make sure they would rename themselves. We wouldn't have to do that anymore with some of these things. It's just things have changed, you know. So.
Yeah, there's so Andy's, you know, this built-in ability in the product to you know, just pick them up and suck them in, their names. And I think the only thing I've run into is there has to be a moment of locking the ability for them to rename themselves. And, you know, sometimes I've had audiences, you know, during tech checks, like, okay, get your names changed the way you want them because you're not going to be able to in 5 minutes. And so that you lock yourself into it, so all your program config continues to work throughout the show, because people change it, man. When they sit around bored, they do all kinds of crap.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it's not, I mean, this is, you know, a play. It's scripted. We know everything. We've rehearsed it. It's children, so they're compliant. So
they're compliant.
You know, in some way. So I see where I made called mine pin, and I said ZoomOSC pins. Pin screen 1, and then I said by selection.
Right, selection, and then you need to put. And
so
then
whoever's selected will be pinned.
Yes.
Now, if I need them in a certain position on the screen, as far as like who's up first, before it was like the person I punched first would always be in the top left or whatever. Does that still apply, or?
No, not right now. Actually, I don't know if in this, it's on Benjamin's list of things to do, is to make it respect the order at which you pressed it.
Because it did before, that was the key thing with the syntax. Last time we would just hit them in a certain order and it was golden.
So I actually don't know. It may. By the time this is released, it'll absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because the other thing we figured out was we could just add, like, you know, a row of actions of just like pressing one single button. I could pin these 3 usernames with one button, and then that would still, because of the stack, it would still give us the order that we wanted.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. You have repeatable layouts that you understand that you can then tie to the media server and touch designer.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah. I'm with you. I think that you have your 2 options would be to do them individually like you've done in the past. But if you do want to do this hot selection stuff, at some point it will respect the order that you press them in. I just don't know if we're at that point yet in development. Yeah. Like it's like one of the things that they're actively like doing in these weeks right now. So
yeah.
What's the difference between?
I'm on a pretty late build, and it's not respecting the order of selection yet. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the difference between unpin and clear pin?
Clear pin removes all of the pins that are set. Unpin removes a specific person or a specific group of people from the pin.
So if I'm gonna do the by selection, unpin by selection, should I use clear or unpin?
You should use unpin.
Okay.
Yeah. Clear wipes everything out.
Okay. And then so for my functionality, for at least this page of options, for the selection options, I should have 3 buttons: pin, unpin, and add pin, right?
I would put a clear pin in there and just not tie it to any selection, because it's nice to have get rid of all the pins.
So what would I tie it to?
You wouldn't have to tie it to anything. It's not a user action, or it is a user. You tie it to me on the drop down list.
Tie it to me.
Yeah. So it'll clear your pins. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Andy, are you at all prepared? Not that you were meant to come in prepared for this, but kind of the final, what I look at, kind of the final rundown, which is super cool to be able to, get dynamic names from all the different variables, target IDs, list index, gallery names, positions, things like that. But, in large productions or largely attended meetings, that only goes so far, right, in a useful manner, because there's way more people we don't care about production-wise than the few or several that we highly care about, making sure they're on camera, on time, and so forth. And I know it's coming, but are you at all prepared to be able to show favorites?
Let me take a quick look.
So I'll speak to, so you fire up a meeting, you're the host of, you're going to moderate it. You don't know a lot of anything other than, that these 6 people are your key folks out of the meeting while 300 people roll in. And really, you don't even really want to see everybody else on your stream deck. You just want those folks. As well as, you don't necessarily, maybe you have their names, the people in charge, but you don't really want to have to mess around with the spelling, tying them by names or anything like that, because the name checks are case sensitive. Special characters can, sometimes work, sometimes not always, and so forth. So I guess if I speak to it, and correct me if I get off base here, Andy, but the ability to, in fact, just have a page that populates automatically. The assumption is you have a 30-minute tech check-in with the speakers and yourself and any other key players before the meeting ever begins. So that's when your key players show up. And so your stream deck just naturally populates, but it gives you the opportunity to say you, and you're my favorites, because you're the ones I have to manage as far as camera time goes. And so you can designate them favorites. Now it doesn't, and then they show up presumably on a stream deck page, for instance, that is only sitting there waiting for favorites to be assigned or defined. And so when they are defined, poof, they show up, poof, they show up, poof, they show up. So then you go manage the show with like a selection action type panel, but the buttons of people are actually favorite buttons of people with the actions buttons down the side, and that's the page you manage the show with. Even though you have, hundreds of other folks, it gives you that chance to kind of quickly build a show that you can really quickly get it set up and configured, and it's all dynamic, quite dynamic, with the exception of a few button presses defining your favorite people, and go from there. I don't know what I missed that you.
That's exactly it. You basically, favorites are allowing you to combine things together so that you can look at a large pool of people, pick the people you want, then work on a page with whatever workflow that you want, and know that you have those people there as long as they're in your favorites list, whether they rename, whatever happens. I think so long as they don't leave and rejoin the call, then you'll have to refavorite them. But it basically will survive a whole lot of stuff. And they're in this subgroup, basically. It's like a little bucket that you can put them in. and you'll be able to do stuff to those. Now, my build of Companion doesn't have favorites in them right now. Jeff, I don't know. Have you started to use it? Is it in yours?
No, I haven't. I really actually haven't dug for it to see if it's in this library or not. Where would I find it in a
So the best way to know if you have it,
drop-down?
the best way to
Yeah.
know if you have it or not is to go to just a regular button, ZoomOSC, and then look for favorites as a new action type, or look for selection actions and see if add to favorites is on the message dropdown.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No.
So I got to check in on that. I know there was a beta that had it at some point. I don't know if it's this beta, but I've seen it and used it before. But that's you got it right. You got it right. That's exactly what it is.
And is that targeted in the 405 release?
Yeah. It's part of. I mean, so it's not a. Favorites are not a concept inside of ZoomOSC. They're solely inside of Companion. So they because all it is again, everything at the end of the day is in Companion. It's turning it into a Zoom ID and then sending a Zoom ID based action to ZoomOSC.
Yeah.
So ZoomOSC doesn't need any changes to do this.
So a favorite can survive. You said a lot of things, and we'll drill down on that. I'll start with the ones I know. It can survive movability. So I mean, some folks will turn their video off and then turn it back on. That will reposition them. You originally had the 6, even if they were the 6 because they were first ones to show up, now they get repositioned dynamically. Oh gosh, I mean, there's several things. Raised hands pushes people away. I mean, there's a number of things there. The one thing that a favorite won't survive though is a disconnect, right? It's a lock to their Zoom ID, and a Zoom ID is unique to that session that they're logged in as. So
right.
that would
now
be the one.
that being said, it's not a silent failure though. If it's basically as though they left the meeting, you'll see them leave your favorites list, and then you'll know you have to go back and get them when they come back. So.
That's true. Yeah.
So just something to be aware of is they'll come out when they get disconnected.
Yeah. Cool.
I apologize, Jeff. I'm going to have to run.
I think we're past our scheduled time anyways. But so we'll let you off the hook. Thanks for spending so much time with us and sharing so much information with us. I think there was a lot of clarification provided today.
Can I ask one dumb question, and maybe another person can answer this? Is when I'm done with this meeting and I start my next meeting, is there I have these presets, these names are in here. Once I start that new meeting, it automatically changes the names?
Yes, if you're using the preset, yes.
Okay, amazing.
Yep.
Cool. That's what we'll test. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right, thanks everybody. Shoot us an email anytime you have any questions. And if you want the beta builds, send an email as well and we'll get you those. And Jim, I saw you sent me an email, so I will read that in a minute. Take care. All right, bye-bye, guys.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks, Andy.
So I've got, we can either kind of wrap things up, or if there's anybody who wants to just go into kind of study hall workshop mode and talk out loud and ask and see if there's an answer to your question or struggle. Or, I mean, you got a few people, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cameras on, which is a good place to be as far as being able to test and so forth. So votes to keep the kitchen open for a while. I am totally good with that. Ward?
Yeah, I know I spoke with Andy about this some time ago, but I'm still confused on why people run 2 instances for their ZoomOSC. I'm just using the basic version, but everything, or 2 machines, like why I see 2 versions of everybody on here. I seem to be able to do what I want to do with ZoomOSC on the main machine that I've got VMix on.
I guess I would say you're the bold and the brave. I mean, technically there's no reason I couldn't host the Zoom Test Kitchen on my ZoomOSC /ISO client. I just simply, I've asked Andy a few times and heard him get asked, and his best practice recommendation is to manage your OSC logic and switching from a secondary machine, and host, if you're the host, host on what they refer to as the vanilla Zoom client, the one that Zoom delivers to us to start and host the meeting. So technically it's not a have to. It's just a common practice, I guess. You don't have to. I don't very often see hosting on the Zoom vanilla client and the ZoomOSC client on the same machine, although you can. But I do run them side by side on separate machines. It gives you, ZoomOSC requires co-host. That's that word. I don't know why I got stumbled on that one. It requires co-host. You're usually the one, if you're the one hosting, you're the first one to arrive. Your ZoomOSC client's the second one to arrive, and you give it co-host to be able to do what you want it to do. And if you happen to get, disconnected for whatever unknown reason, it's a great backup because your ZoomOSC client will become the host, and in that circumstance. And so, it's a good backup and reliability push that way. But yeah, it's not a have to at all.
Okay. And would you run Companion on both computers and then have how would you do it? I've got vMix, Companion, Stream Deck, and ZoomOSC that I would be running. I'm on a Windows system.
I'm not claiming that I have, the perfect or ideal setup, but I've got a PC Windows system in front of me that I launched the vanilla Zoom client to host the Zoom Test Kitchen. This PC is also my vMix machine, and so I have vMix on this monitor, and I have Zoom on this monitor, and then next to me I have it's a 2015 MacBook Pro, and I put this in Discord yesterday. I realized, and I've been running this, and it has an external monitor as well, but that's where ZoomOSC lives, and it has it's the ZoomISO client that also supports the ZoomOSC licensing, and I've been playing with and sampling, like 4 ISO outputs from ZoomISO on this machine, only to finally, a couple weeks later, remind myself, this network card probably isn't the most ideal, and it was this one is, it doesn't have a built-in Ethernet port, so I was doing USB dongle to Ethernet, and so I had a 100 meg card, and I was sending four 1080 ISOs out of it, which, like, at a minimum, they say is 130 megabits per second each, and I'm like, not quite sure how it worked, but it worked. I mean, anybody who's been on my meetings and have seen the 4-ups from vMix, those were 4 1080 feeds out of this, 100 meg card. So yesterday, I had a Elgato Thunderbolt 2 dock that I haven't used in a long time. I'm like, man, I bet that will be my upgrade. And sure enough, it gives you gigabit throughput. And so I've got everything running through that Elgato now for. I went from a speed test of like in the 90s, 90 up, 90 down, to 900 plus. Up and down, just by routing my network through that Elgato. So that was a nice improvement. But and then next to me for streaming, I have a system that joins the meeting to give it a presentation so I can capture it and then stream it, because Zoom's built-in streaming sucks, like, big time. I mean, no multi-spotlights and all kinds of stuff that just doesn't happen through Zoom streaming. So I always try to capture it, and then so I can at least stream what I want the audience to see. So that's the setup. So I'm a mix of Mac and PC. If I was PC only, you know, you have the challenges of ZoomISO, right? But if I was PC only, I'd also have the challenge of gallery tracking for ZoomOSC. It doesn't work well either. So it really kind of does. It just, you know, it seems so close. Sometimes it sometimes comes across a little like argumentative, like why don't you just build this for Windows or build this for Mac? You know, it's like, really? Like, if you asked, how do I do, and I told you to go buy a rake to get it done, you'd go buy a rake, you know, like, and you'd buy that kind of rake, even though you had a different kind of rake in your garage. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would just go buy the right tool. We'd go get the right tool rather than be, you know, like platform independent or a platform cultist or whatever the case is, whatever the drive is behind it, right? It is as if that matters. Like, hey, it happens to be the right tool. I mean, because the next complaint would be, well, we think we've got it running on the Windows platform and now it's not working right, and now you're complaining because all the wishers out there finally, you know, encouraged, you know, let's say Andy and team to stretch their resources, and now they've become half as good as they used to because now they have to do it for, you know, 2 different platforms and so forth. That's not the case. A lot of their stuff is dual platform. vMix is a perfect example of a single platform solution, right? They're Windows only, and you know, there's a lot of people who go, oh, when are you going to make it for Mac? I'd stand back and go, hey, quit doing that. Like, I want those guys to stay focused on the Windows platform and the Windows platform only, because it's one of the most stable software packages, not perfect, but darn close, you know, that runs on a PC, and it's because it's their sole focus. And so there's some real benefits that, you know, we shouldn't ignore, that's for sure. What else is
thank you for that.
Quick question.
Yep.
I was sent the Maestro Zoom last night as a test room. Is that still viable, or?
I do not know. Does anybody else here know?
Because I had logged in, but like I wasn't automatically a co-host. I thought I'd automatically be a co-host.
Yeah,
that
I'm unaware of how all the logic that's put into that.
Okay, because I was like, if my partner wants to see, he's just unavailable to come observe what I'm doing, and
gotcha.
So like one of the values of this meeting is just to have all the freaking computers up.
Yeah.
And
hey, let me tell you, if we roll back and say, why'd I start the Zoom Test Kitchen? I'm telling you, that was the singular reason why. I, you know, I, like many others, just simply needed a place that had a few talking heads in it at the very minimum, right? And I thought, you know, why don't I just pick a common, you know, predictable date and time and see if people will come, and it didn't take long, you know, to where people started coming, but the surprise part was a lot of people showed up with the expectation of instruction, and I love to teach and share and so forth, but the time it takes to prepare is pretty burdensome, quite honestly, and so, you know, the more you know, the more work we've got, the more we can share. It's just kind of keeping it in your mind, like, hey, what I do all week that I can share and make meaningful, you know, the people.
Well, the videos are, you have so many videos, and it can be overwhelming in the beginning, but I think once you have the vernacular down, it becomes easy to come in here and ask the right questions. Like, it just took me forever to figure out the questions to ask.
Yeah, no, you know? that's the thing. You know, we don't know what we don't know, which includes a limitation on what we even know to talk about or ask about. And you know, it's a lot easier when we get stuck on a job and or a meeting that we gathered some requirements and we go, I don't know how to do that. I'm going to go ask the community, right? And it's a lot easier at that point, but not always the case. At times, the more experience we have, the more we can imagine you know, being in a show and apply actual kind of what if scenarios. What if, you know, I mean, it's like, this is the way I've always done it will keep us in a rut forever, career-wise, if you will. But if we allow ourselves to get out of that, you know, this is the way we've always done it, and literally kind of stretch and go, what if those names could auto-populate? What if I could select more than one at a time and then execute? You know, like dream. Kind of dream about, because that's where new features come from too, is, you know, dreaming about it, realizing that the answer is no, but knowing that it got submitted as a request for an enhancement, and they said, yeah, we can actually accomplish that, and becomes a released feature in a few weeks or months.
And some of these enhancements are really incredible for, you know, theatrical uses, and so many theater companies have had to pivot even for the foreseeable future to have more streaming online, you know, options. And this is opening up a lot for that, you know, and it's affordable too, relatively.
Yeah. It is. And Andy comes from that space, right? He comes from the theater space, and now he's gotten roped into the production space, broadcast space with us. And it's, I mean, it's always been one of my highest regards with him, is because he relates so much to what we're challenged with, but yet he's the developer, you know, in charge of what that product becomes and so forth. So it's just super relative. Bill, you've got a question out there that best email for a beta build. A couple of answers to that, I think, info@liminalet.com. We'll do that. That goes to multiple people, and whoever's quickest available will be able to reply to you. And then, if you haven't joined the Slack channel, I'd, you know, definitely suggest getting on the Liminal Slack channel. Is very, very active, and they're super responsive.
Should I just send a message to Benjamin on the Slack power users?
I would say, you know, I mean, your quickest answer will always be to send to an alias, so that there's a group of people who read it, and they'll work out amongst themselves. Like, you know, I know Benjamin has a really busy summer with camps and leadership stuff and so forth. So, and I don't know when he's there and when he's gone, but I think the info on Slack, if you haven't joined it yet, the Slack channel or Slack server is Liminal Power Users.
No, y'all are everywhere. Y'all are even in the companion user Facebook group sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm not Liminal. I'm my own production company, but I host the Zoom Test Kitchen, and when Andy and his team brought this product to market, I thought Andy and we wanted him in the Zoom Test Kitchen, but because it was so new and it was so exciting, it took away a lot of time to be able to focus on Zoom, and there were a lot of people in the Zoom Test Kitchen who were affected by that, and so I said I'll host a ZoomOSC Test Kitchen on Thursdays, and so that we can focus on Zoom on Fridays, and I'm just a huge fan of the solution and what it does for me professionally on jobs and the whole bit. So it's been great to be a part of the community that way, and grow with it as it continues to grow and provide us so much.
I have a question, maybe.
Sure.
For press actions, for app, like I'm just kind of looking at all the different actions that can be done. For the most part, would you keep the user set as me?
Well, like the me is, yeah, if you want to execute something on your system, that's what me is all about.
Okay.
Clear my screen, clear my spots, or clear my pins.
Gallery view.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go to gallery
or
view.
Share screen or share.
It's
share
just
screen.
a total convenience reference. Just
got it.
Just do it to me and me only.
Got it.
With the exception that Andy was talking about earlier was if you happen to be managing a webinar does in fact allow you to set the attendee view to my view. And then if you do a me to gallery view or me to speaker view, and you're in that follow host view for attendee view, then it will, that's the only exception really where it can affect the entire audience. And in fact, you're using programmatically the me reference. Other than that, they always are actions that only take place on my computer and no one would know different. Okay. Anything else? Any other thoughts? You guys want to work and talk out loud? I will take a bio break, but leave the kitchen open or pass host to somebody. But your call, whether you're ready to wrap things up or make it a workspace. Your call.
I need
Thanks
to
for everything. It was really helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Love to have you back again, but well, let's do it. For the sake of the stream that's still up, we'll roll out with a couple of slides and some music, and we'll see you maybe tomorrow in the Zoom Test Kitchen, same time, and or next week. So take care.